Hello, I'm Toby Fox from the 1.5 million new homes campaign sponsored by Redloft, and I'm here today in Slough to try and understand how Slough Borough Council can contribute more to the government's target of getting 1.5 million new homes built. And I'm with Pat Hayes, who is Executive Director for Regeneration, Housing and Environment, to talk about, firstly, the ingredients of success for delivery of new homes. Pat, thanks very much indeed for hosting us here in Slough. Tell us a bit about what's so special about the borough. Set the scene for what we're about to discuss.
I mean, Slough is phenomenally interesting.
Yeah.
You know, it is in many ways. You know, I think the greatest opportunity in the southeast. It has got so much going for it. Yeah, little things that people don't know. The internet is basically in Slough. Most of Europe's data centres are in Slough.
Yeah.
The Slough trading estate is the largest single trading estate in Europe. It's home to countless numbers of household names. Started in 1919 and has grown and developed. You know, it's the hub of 20th century industrial Britain and continues to evolve in that way. You know, big offices, big, people like Octopus there. You know, innovation, technology. In terms of people, Slough is one of the few places in the country where the population, average age is actually going down rather than up. It's also one of the most diverse places in the country. I think it's the third most diverse borough. So, young, vibrant, dynamic population. And we're literally a 20-minute bike ride from Heathrow Airport and Terminal 5, where 7,000 of the borough's residents work. So, we're right at the heart of the world in terms of communication from Heathrow, the UK in terms of the rail network, motorway network, you've got M4, M25. You couldn't be better connected than you are.
And also very close to sort of Windsor Castle and Ascot and the playing fields of...
Literally go past my office and you are on the playing fields of Eton.
Yeah.
You look from the top floor of our office building, which is a kilometre from where we are now, you can see Windsor Castle.
Yeah.
You go the other side, there's a Crossrail station on the edge of Slough in Burnham. You turn left onto the trading estate. Right, you're in the leafy Chiltern. So, positionally and spatially, absolutely marvellous. Population terms, absolutely marvellous. And huge development opportunity as well. We're at places with cleared brownfield sites, lots of space in the town centre, massive opportunity around the industrial estate around Heathrow. So, everything is going for Slough, and it's the challenge is almost why it hasn't quite happened and what we need to do to make it happen.
Yeah. So, Pat, we're here at the Horlicks Quarter, which is being developed by Berkely Group. Tell us a bit about the site, the location, how you describe it and its history.
Yeah, I mean, like so many sites in Slough, this was, a big factory, cutting edge in its time in the early 1920s, was where the Horlicks malted milk drink, which, I can vaguely remember my dad drinking, so this is going back a very long way. Very typical of its day in terms of, a very, quite an ornate industrial architecture with a crenellated building. And so, it was something that was worth saving. And it was also something which is, I think, quite valued by people in Slough. And, it was something everybody saw from the railway line going to the West Country from London and everything. So, a bit of a landmark building, to use the architectural cliche. Eventually bought by Berkely. I mean, again, I think and we've seen this in lots of other places, whether that's in Kidbrooke or elsewhere, being prepared to go to places where other people wouldn't go and seeing, yes, we can make something of value here. Yeah. And I don't think a lot of developers would have gone, Slough, old industrial site, with an existing listed building you've got to work through and round.
It's got like trouble.
It's got all those things on it, and people really go, no, I think I'll actually go and do Surbiton or something, And so, I think a good example of a developer with a plan, thinking that we can drive value here and we can make something work. And that's really what's happened now. So we've seen new build and the conversion of the old core historic building into flats as well. 500 odd new homes, I think 90% sold, Abri and Sovereign delivering affordable on the site as well. I think we're up to 35% affordable housing on the site as well. So genuine mixed community, really good quality public realm. And that's the thing that really stands out when you walk around this place. And in Slough we have suffered from some fairly poor quality residential developments. We've got a lot of single blocks, poor design, poorly maintained. We've got a lot of very poor office conversions, very poor PD schemes. You know, so we've got the bad, we've got the ugly, and I think this is the good, and more phases to come effectively. So, you know, and right by the station, so making real use of that connectivity.
And right by, it's like within 5 minutes walk.
5 minute walk to the station, and then from the station you're then 35 minutes to, you know, Bond Street effectively. You know, so this is as good as you can get in connectivity terms. And I think a really good example of really good design and really good urbanism in terms of the public realm. You know, the challenge now is to finish this scheme off, the next phases, and link that through to the station, and then do more like this in Slough. You know, and because this does show that, you know, it works commercially, and it works from us as a local authority's point of view. From the local authority side, you know, I think this is a good example of where Slough probably in the past hadn't been so good at working with developers, you know, too rigid in many ways in terms of this must happen, you know, that must happen, we want that, and effectively stalling it, and the excellent being the enemy of the good. Here, I think, a very pragmatic approach in terms of working with the developer to get a scheme that conserved what was worth conserving, built on that, adapted it, and has created a really good place, you know, with workspace, a nursery, a cafe. So it's not just a dead residential development. So, and the borough helped facilitate that through the planning process. We've even got some, you know, there are some family houses being built as well. So it's not all flats, you know, and again, and good support in terms of bringing in grant from Homes England, engaging housing association partners. We've been flexible around some of the height and massing and allowing changes to improve the scheme rather than just sticking to a rigid scheme at the start. And ultimately we will back the extension of the scheme through a CPO as well if necessary. You know, so we're sitting behind the developer to give them that comfort that, you know, if they can't acquire the sites needed for the future phases, council will compulsorily purchase those if they can't acquire them by, you know, mutual agreement.
And what's the time scale of all of this?
Well, we're now, you can hear behind us, you know, this is the next phase is, you know, coming out of the ground. You know, a couple of years for this one, you know, the family houses will be occupied by Christmas, so these early phases will then all be completed, and then we move on to adjacent sites, so they've got to be acquired and brought in. So this is, you know, a 5-10 year programme ongoing, but, you know, really significant catalytic change for Slough in terms of showing this is what can be done.
So in terms of sort of sharing knowledge with colleagues in other places, like how do you get something like this started? What role did the council, if any, play in getting Berkely Group excited
You've got to engage the developer. You've got to go out and bring people here and say, look, come to us, we can do this. You've got to give them confidence.
How do you do that, especially given the precarious sort of financial position?
I think you've got to be able to say, look, you know, we can get, you know, we'll work with you. We are sensible and pragmatic. We understand where you're coming from. We're not a soft touch. You've also got to show that you're not a soft touch, because I think, you know, developers and politicians, I always think they're rather like horses, you know, that you've got to, you know, they've got to think that they can trust you, and then they'll jump for you. If they don't trust you, they'll refuse, because they think this guy doesn't know what I'm doing, what he's doing, you know, how am I going to trust him? So I think you've got to build that, the council's got an idea and a vision, it's prepared to stand behind it and back it. They are, you know, prepared to negotiate hard with us, so therefore we respect them, so there's that mutual respect. And that they're prepared to see it through, you know, and given this sort of political cycle as well, it's really important, I think, the developers have got some confidence in the officers and some confidence in the politicians. You need both, effectively. But, you know, you can't probably get away with one but not the other, but you definitely need at least one of those to, you know, that they can think, well, you know, we've got confidence the officers will see this through, even if there's a change in political cycle and political control. And I think that's one of the things that's often forgotten, that so much of, you know, the development and regeneration is about personal trust and contact. You know, and it's why originally, you know, I used to go on those cycle rides to Cannes with you, because it's about spending time with people and getting to know people and developing that.
Not spending time with me,
spending
time with architects and developers.
And indeed, people producing magazines, journalists, but, you know, really, really important. Going on trips, going to conferences, going to MIPIM, you know, it's about building those personal contacts with people. So it's not just, you know, and one of the local authorities' weaknesses is often people sit in their town hall or civic office looking at their plan and people go, you know, oh, we've got a great UDP. Well, no one's read the UDP, have they? You know, no developer's going to read the UDP, are they? They might ask their planning consultant what's in it. That's not important.
A UDP being a
unitary development plan or a local plan, as they now are, and they'll probably have a new name next week.
Okay. So Pat, here we are in the atrium of the one of the Horlicks Quarter buildings. Can you explain for us a little bit about the ingredients of success for this development? Like, why is it that you consider it successful?
I think it's a really good place to describe that success, actually, because this is right in the middle of what would have been the old factory churning out the malted milk drink. And you see some of the steelwork is preserved here. You've got all the planting, this is indoor planting, but the same as, and it's the attention to detail in this scheme. So often you just get, it's tarmac and grass.
Yeah.
Here you've got interesting planting, layout, design, and things are done to good quality and they will last, partly because this is a development being built by a developer who's got a long-term interest and will stay and hold and retain it rather than just sell it onto a management company or a pension fund or whatever. And I think that is a really important element of success, is that long-term ownership and stakeholding in the scheme.
And there's something about creating a place that isn't like other places as well. So there's something about understanding the heritage of a place and then allowing that to emerge through the scheme.
This scheme, the developer has worked with the building. They've kept the building, they've kept the war memorial, all those sort of things, and worked with that grain. But they've also innovated around it, so it's not just pastiche, and that's again really important. And again, it comes back to that quality and spend that, so often in the UK, you see this through so many things that we do, that the value engineering comes in very, very early on, and you're going down to the cheapest possible doors, cheapest possible plants, cheapest possible everything, and it doesn't last, and it doesn't look good for the future. One of the things that, in Berkely and Dagenham we did, that we committed the money for the planting and the landscaping up front first, so that couldn't get eaten up at the end because, we've overrun, therefore we take the planting out. So we do that first and pay for that, buy the trees, so we can't lose them at the end. And that's a sort of similar ethos, I think, with this sort of scheme. The little stuff is really, really important and be done to really high quality, rather than so often the little stuff, just buy the cheapest possible door, buy the cheapest possible plant, and that's where it all starts to go wrong.
But one of the difficulties in inculcating that sort of level of quality and detail in a place is the cost of it. Yeah. So how do you balance the cost and ultimately the sale value and the type of people that you're going to get here and the kind of, it's all for private sale and so on. How do you balance that with your need to provide affordable housing and social housing?
And this again is a good example of where, you can always work across subsidy model, because you can drive value by good quality, better sale price, better demand and take up, which then enables you to, gives you a bit more to do the affordable housing. This scheme was done well because it's had grant into it, and everybody was totally upfront about the viability of it. This scheme needs grant to be able to deliver affordable housing, and we shouldn't shy away from that model. This thing that all schemes, there's enough money in the scheme to deliver affordable housing per se, may not be possible depending on the costs and valuation and sales price, etc., etc. This is also quite a mixed development in terms you've got build for rent as well as build for sale. And as a local authority, we're always looking to say, how can we help the developer deliver the best mix? Build for rent, it doesn't give you the cash down, but it gives you immediacy. You fill it much faster than you can ever fill sale property. So from a cash flow point of view, it's great. It needs a different management approach and offer. Affordable housing, also the same. You get that filled straight away, and you've got it on site, and gives you that early occupancy effectively. Other things, whether it's student housing, whether it's some more collective type housing, all things that we'd encourage, because they're all part of that mix to creating a viable scheme and a dynamic community. All too often in the UK we have this model of, and you see it outside London, these executive home developments where they're all the same. It's a pastiche architecture style, and it's just a single product of a house with a garden and a carport for sale. This is a good example of an alternative approach which is commercially successful but mixed and varied.
And there are registered provider partners who are delivering the affordable homes. Yeah. So what's the role of the council, and how can councils be good at that role in arranging for those partnerships and ensuring that kind of balance of
I think that
tenure?
We've probably been less good historically at this in Slough, but I think some of the things we are getting better at, and we've got to get better at, is that brokerage role. It's putting people together. And again, it's back to that point you raised earlier around that personal contact. is actually introducing the main players in the developers, the main players in local housing associations or national housing associations, saying, why don't you guys do a deal on this? We'd like you to. Traditionally, local authorities used to have their lists, and developers ask who's on your list, and I've always said to people, don't care. Bring somebody good in. Love to have someone who isn't in this area, to be honest. Doesn't matter if they've got a big stock here or not. Somebody who wants to do a good scheme. Let's introduce some dynamic tension into the local housing association market if necessary. Here we're lucky. We've got 2 strong housing associations. Who've taken units on this site and have brought them forward. Other places, their housing associations are more challenged in terms of financial constraints they're under. And again, there's a role for councils here potentially. I wouldn't rule out, Slough at some stage taking affordable units in a scheme. We've got a healthy HRA with some significant capital receipts in it. We could take some units, which again, you can play your part in making a development viable and bringing a development forward, because you can say, look, we'll take the affordable units up front, single cash payment. Great for us, helps to at least dent our housing waiting list, and at the same time gives the developer cash to move the next stage forward.
Removes a big chunk of risk.
Yeah, and de-risking it. Yeah, and that's where dynamic use of grant as well. And us acting as an intermediary between developer Homes England. Homes England, real opportunity here, real opportunity to get delivery.
What hard-learned lessons have you learned working on the Horlicks Quarter with Berkely Group and other partners?
It's not necessarily a lesson, but I think one of the things that you need to do and why this is a success is because we need to attract in the bigger developers with the deeper pockets, the track record, the experience, product and brand that they want to safeguard and build on. And that's why this has been a success, and possibly some of the other developments in Slough have been less successful because they were done by people who didn't really have the capacity, ambition, depth of funding to deliver really good quality. And this does show that good quality works, because you get the sales, you get the delivery of the affordable housing, and you get the quality of place, which is the thing that you're really looking for. And I think those are the lessons that for us that we've got to get the whether it's the bigger office developers, the bigger industrial developers, these are the people that you need to have in a place. You can't just survive on the local sort of smaller development community, important as they are and have their niche in the market. And that's the important place for somewhere like Slough, which is a slightly marginal development location that's off the map. It's bringing people here, showing them the opportunity, showing them the connectivity, introducing them to us, saying that we can do this. We've got a vision as well. We want to do something. You can make money here. You can expand your brand and image and profile here. And that's the secret.
What about lessons for development partners, for the private sector partners? How do they convince you that they can be that star developer, that they can do that good job?
I think it's 2 issues. One is track record and see they're doing it somewhere else. Little things like who are the architects you're going to use? Convincing us around design and credibility. I get a lot of people coming to see me saying, "Oh, have you got any sites to sell?" I go to think, yes. And you think, and they're going, we like doing PD, and your sort of heart sinks. You think, there's another one. We've got a lot of capital. You think, but have you ever done anything? Are you just a flipper? And there's lots of these non-developing developers in the market. Talk a good game, nice shiny suit, but you think, well, actually, you never actually build anything out and hold anything.
So once they get consent, they just sell it on to someone.
Or they'll build something out and then immediately sell that onto a fund or something like that, and the residents will then be left with an offshore landlord, etc., etc. So those are the things that I look for. It's the people with that track record, knowledge of the UK market. One of the problems that we have, the shopping sector, to be honest, at the moment is it's owned by an offshore fund. Far away, sovereign wealth fund. No UK office presence, no knowledge of the UK market, no contact with the UK industry. Very hard for them to bring a viable development forward. And so it's these sort of things. So it's knowledge of the place, thinking that these people understand design, they understand viability in the true sense of actually wanting a long-term return on the product rather than just a short-term in and out and goodbye. All really important.
So have you got like a little black book of architects that you like, so that if a developer says we're working with these guys, you instantly give them a credit, there's a tick against their name?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's not a little black book, but it's definitely a list of people.
Is it a big black book?
No, well, there's a list in my head, because I never write, I'm mildly dyslexic, so I never write anything down, but which is one of my weaknesses. But yeah, definitely. Yeah, there are people that, you know, I think, oh, if you're working with them or they're working with you, you're probably okay.
Yeah.
You know, or at least you get it because you get it enough to get these guys involved. And there are definitely people who I think, you know, if they're involved, they'll probably deliver a half decent scheme.
Yeah.
And if they're not allowed to, they'll probably walk off it. You know, and that's, you know, and that is really, really important. And I think that, you know, in terms of the development ecosystem, architects are an incredibly important part of that. You know, it's like Berkely and Dagenham, the main things there was selecting, and the reason that scheme was successful is because we selected the right architects right at the start.
Yeah.
You know, and people who would deliver the ideas and concepts you want. And often it's teams of architects as well, because sometimes you need the visionary architect at the top, and then somebody else to, you know, make the scheme slightly more buildable, trim it and align it and everything like that, and, you know, without ruining it. But then there's a different place for those sort of architects. Sometimes it's a team of architects, so you think, well, that's great, they're the vision architect doing the master plan, and it's also good they've got so and so in alongside them because they're really good at building nice things but efficient. You know?
Who are the so and so's? Who are the good ones?
Oh, that'd be too difficult to say. I mean, I suppose I'm lucky at the moment. I'm working with two of my favourites that you know we're retaining, which is White.
White
Swedish architects,
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely brilliant job they did for us in B&D on Gascoigne. Bring some really interesting Scandinavian thinking, but have got a London office and a really solid London base as well. So understand the ecosystem. Grey West as well, you know, always been a great fan about Christoph and David. You know, really creative, you know, different way of doing it, you know. So I'm lucky to be working with those. There's some other really good ones knocking around, you know, some of the, you know, May, you know, Hawkins Brown, all these people in their own place do really good stuff. And, you know, and there's also, you know, some of the other, you know, architects, TP Bennett, things like that, very good in their role. You know, they do a good job. You know, I've always found a lot of time for HTA. You know, HTA, some really good, you know, in Ealing with Countryside, you know, the South Acton estate, brilliant work by HTA there, you know. And again, sometimes it's the big practices and sometimes it's the small ones. And you want to bring the small practices on, but sometimes alongside a big practice, because the big practice has got all the people who can do the CAD drawing and all the grunt work on the ground and the stats and the utilities and things like that, you know. So you need a mix of architects, I think. You know, when we did that in B&D, we brought some of the small architects alongside some of the bigger architects, paired people up, which is another thing. And, you know, I'm very happy with developers to suggest that. So why don't you use so-and-so and why don't you get so-and-so in alongside them, for example, you know. And
what about those developers? Who are the great developers that you're really excited about, that you'd love to come to Slough?
Well, I'm lucky. I mean, I've always, you know, Berkely are of their type, really good, and we're very lucky to have them here.
Their type being?
Higher end residential, you know, different and innovative schemes, you know. We've got Bellway here, who, you know, who are a very different developer, but doing a good job of their type of product on a site that we sold them, you know. So that's, you know, it is an ecosystem and you need the different people. So it's those big national names, even if they're doing different products. Industrial, you know, again, I think lucky we've got Equinix that's on the data center side, you know, the world leader in that, you know, one of the world leaders. We've got Microsoft as well now, building their own first owned and operated data center. You know, you can't get any bigger than that. And in that field, they're clearly one of the best, you know. So it's always looking for those people who are the leaders in their field or in their niche. You know, who else would I like to see? You know, I don't think they'll be here, you know. It's more from Landsec. We've got Landsec here. You know, more from them would be great.
Are they're mostly on the office
side?
You
can just see their office block over there, which is a U&I scheme originally. You know, we're lucky we've got them there. You know, there's two more phases of that scheme. You know, I'd like to see those come out as residential, so that, you know, they might move that on. Obviously, you know, you've got the guys who did King's Cross. You know, Argent. They've obviously got a lot on at the moment, but, you know, if I was thinking about somebody who would I like to see in Slough, Argent, obviously, you know. And then some of the, you know, there's a whole raft of other people probably coming up who you don't know about yet. And those are the thing, we've got to find those people as well. You know, you've got to find the next Argent, the next Berkely, you know.
And that's all about making the time to meet people, going to places where they are and finding out about them.
And creating an environment where people think, oh, we can come and try something, you know, because this is somewhere where they want to help us and they want to see developments and growth and things happen, you know. rather than too often councils are just seen as being, oh no, we don't want that.
Yeah.
And when it works both ways, there are a lot of developers around. You just come and see you and you think you just want to make a fast buck, and you've got no commitment to the place. You just, you've got no, say the people who phone up saying, "Well, have you got any sites?" You think, yeah, but I will sell them to you, and I'd rather not really. If I had a choice, yeah.
So that's what Pat Hayes at Slough Borough Council has to share with us in terms of his insights into the ingredients for successful delivery of new homes. Stay tuned for our next episode when we talk to Pat on one of his more challenging sites about what needs to change for the borough to deliver even more new homes. And if you think we're doing a half-decent job, we'd really appreciate it if you clicked the like button. And if you hit subscribe, you'll be sure not to miss any of our future episodes. Thank you very much in the meantime for watching 1.5 million new homes.